Welcome to Inside the Set with Set Decor. Inside the Set is a series that focuses on the design and decor of stories that excite us and ignite our imaginations, where we get to discuss the collaborations between production designers and set decorators, and hear firsthand accounts of how those works of art came to be, from their inception, ideas on the page, through completion, where we sit in the dark and experience them collectively.
Welcome to Inside the Set with Set Decor. I'm David Smith SDSA, and I'm pleased to welcome set decorator Hanna Evans and production designer Debbie Burton to discuss their work on the Netflix sleeper hit series, Baby Reindeer. Welcome, Hanna and Debbie. Thank you for joining me. Always my first question is, how did you first get into the business? Hanna?
Oh, it's so long ago now. I did a fine art degree. I did a fine art painting degree many years ago. But I also, my mum was an interior designer for hotels, and I used to do paint finishes for her. And my dad was a TV graphic designer. So I used to, from like very small, I used to work with them, sort of 14, 15 onwards. And I thought I'd not want to do any design. And I sort of did fine art because, I love that. And I sort of fell into it. And the first job I had was like a really low budget feature. And I just thought, oh God, this feels like home. This feels perfect. And I've just been working since then, really.
And Debbie, you?
I did a degree in theatre design and kind of almost thought I was going to go into performance at one point, and then decided very quickly that wasn't going to work out. So I did theatre design and came out of my degree and started working with touring theatre companies. Again, quite sort of low budget, but just sort of, just on the hoof and being resourceful and creative. And so that was great. And then for some reason, I kind of segued into the music industry and worked in the music industry for about 3 or 4 years as a promoter. So very, very odd kind of start. And then, by my late 20s, it just wasn't creative enough for me. So I needed to get back into design and didn't really want to do the hours that theatre demanded. So very naively went into television.
Yes, fast and dirty, right?
Yeah.
Hardly any hours.
What was great about TV though that I really loved was that what I loved about theatre was the sort of immediacy of it, and with TV it was like that all day every day.
Yeah.
So it was it really fit. Like Hanna, it was like the perfect fit.
Yeah.
And just curious, is this your first time working together, or have you done multiple projects?
Well, this was our first time properly, wasn't it? We've known each other for a long, long time. And I used to art direct for a designer called Tom Bowyer, who Hanna set decorates for. So we've definitely known of each other, but we haven't worked together properly before, have we?
No, we did that thing where you were in Bulgaria and I did the UK part, and that was
for aliens. Yeah.
And Debbie, I assume that just like most times, you were the first one hired for the project as opposed to Hanna. How did it come to you? Did you have any inside source or just?
Well, I had worked with Clerkenwell numerous times. I did the whole 5 years of Misfits, a really popular thing they did back in sort of 2009 to 2012. And then I did a thing which Hanna was just talking about, I think in Bulgaria with them, called Aliens. So I was very, very aware of them as people, and I love their brand. I love the stuff that they commission. I think it's always worthy on some level, whether it's, visually interesting or the story is really unusual. I also have mutual friends with Richard Gadd as well, who knew that this was coming and just said how great it was going to be, because he's just an incredibly, as well as kind of writing from the heart, he's just an incredibly talented man. So that's how I learned about it.
And then you were hired, Hanna, and any trepidation about doing something this dark?
No, because I think they're important to do. I think it's really important to make sure that this sort of this idea, the kind of victim stalking assault, I think it's really important that it's out there. And I think it's really important that we see just the damage it does to people. It's a really interesting story about how his life unravels, I thought. And I didn't have trepidation about that. I thought it was I thought it was right to be on the screen.
Okay, so let's get into the actual work. When I first saw this, I assumed that a number of the locations might have been real. And then, of course, when I saw the drawings yesterday, I thought, oh, I'm totally wrong about that. So can you tell me, how was it split between built sets and location?
Initially, the idea was that most of it would be location, but as often is the way with these things, you can sort of express your ideas about how you think it should be done, i.e. the pub needed to be built. And you have to kind of go through this real protracted process of looking at 100 different pubs and realizing that none of them work. So it has to be built. So it was, it was kind of that sort of thing. It was a process of working out whether we could achieve what we wanted to achieve in existing locations, or whether, and particularly with the pub and Darian's, the way Veronica wanted to shoot it, it needed to be flexible. It needed to have, specifics about it that we were never going to find.
Yeah, absolutely not. We couldn't possibly have the control of the pub, and seeing as it was, the heart of the show.
You'd have to make so many compromises if you were going to find an existing place. And later on in the series, we built a couple of other things as well. I think we built Terry's bedroom and Donnie's bedroom.
Well, I have to say, both Hannah and Debbie, I was quite impressed with the pub. And in my head, after about the third or fourth episode, I thought, this looks so real, but I know just the difficulty of owning a location for that, that's that prominent in a show, that unless you happen to find an empty bar or an empty space, you have to build it. It just didn't dawn on me that you actually built it until I saw the drawings.
So the bar was physically, the actual counter that goes around the whole thing is physically made, constructed.
Yeah. We made it because we were supposed to do this really tricksy shot with the camera that desired that the bar kind of split in half so that the dolly could move from the front to the back. We never ever did it, but it was constructed in such a way that it could all move. But yes, once it was all dressed, it just seemed absolutely ridiculous, the whole thing, the whole idea of it. But yeah.
Hannah, getting all of this dressing, is that an easy thing to do in the UK?
It was just a lot for us to get together, but it was, it's not difficult to get hold of. And
Right.
Also it's kind of, for me and Debbie, it's a combination of all the London pubs we'd ever been in. It feels like very much like a North London pub of the time. And the stuff is it's the amount of stuff that's kind of difficult to get hold of, but there are ways that you can find them all over the place, whether it's hire houses or like flea markets, or possibly like our graphics department that made all the graphics and the posters for it. It's not difficult to get hold of. It's just making sure that it's the right stuff.
I think with something like this, Baby Reindeer was so emotive and it was so nuanced in its sort of character that was really, really important to try and create the backdrop for that, to make everything nuanced, to kind of give it a real emotional feel. And I think particularly for Richard, when he wanted to stand, or when Donnie was in the sets, he wanted to feel like this was what he knew, this is what he was trying to convey.
Well, and also because of the material, there's a certain amount of sort of protection that you want to provide, and also to a degree, probably the secrecy to a degree of the project, so that so many people don't know what's going to happen. Did you shoot the show in like blocks of 3, or did you do a block of 4 and then a block of 3?
Yeah, it was 2 blocks of 4 episodes, and then they cut one, or they kind of amalgamated.
I see. And then so immediately we got into Martha's apartment. That for me, that's a great visual surprise, I have to say. But was it empty, or did you empty it out and you did absolutely all the dressing?
It was a family. It was a mother and a son, one son, two son, young son's place, and we emptied it out, redecorated it. It's this new wallpaper, painted, put a kitchen in. Where the kitchen was the bedroom, I think, something like that.
That's right. It was a little boy's bedroom, wasn't it?
Yeah. So it was we gutted their place basically, and then reinstated it for them afterwards.
What about hanging the curtains? And Hannah, who did those? Those were incredibly hung. I just and the whole clutter in this set is phenomenal.
Well, it's about, this is what, Debbie and I wanted to have. It's that discussion down to the way the drapes are hung. It's because they're all nets. It's almost like a Swedish weave on all of them. But it's that sort of, you want to be able to see the unevenness of the top. And it's just building up the layers upon layers upon layers of stuff that she would have had, she's hoarded over the years. And it's kind of also, but interesting little things that kind of stick out and that will pop. So you're, everything is about making the 2-dimensional, 3-dimensional. So you're brought into her crazy, crazy world.
I think one thing I really love about this is that when she's talking to Donnie in the bar and saying that she owns a law firm and she's got a penthouse in Belsize Park and, she's the go-to mind for political. And then you come here and she knows that Donnie's seen her, and yet she never mentions it. She never apologizes and says, "Oh, I'm sorry, I lied." There's no mention at all. And it's just, it's getting that kind of complexity of what is a mental health problem. And I think that was also depicted in her costume as well. The costume designer went to thrift stores and secondhand clothes and got stuff from his grandma, and just to give this sense of that she can't move on. There's nothing new.
Well, and then the details of the hoarding. I mean, the kitchen dressing alone is spectacular. It makes sense in its disorder, and I just thought it was quite spectacular.
Oh, thank you.
And it certainly must have helped the actors. I mean, that is part of always of what we do is provide help to tell the story almost immediately,
Absolutely. That is the main thing, because you're trying to get them to feel right in their, in their space, but also you're telling the audience, you have to give the audience the clues immediately.
Let's talk about Darien's a little bit. Was there any reference material or research material that you particularly found for this particular apartment?
I think initially it was conversations about where he would live, what kind of place would Darien have, and obviously, I mean, the whole of episode 4 is kind of a departure from the rest of the show on some level. It's a much more heightened sense of Donnie's reality, so it had to have a slightly different feel, I think. So even though I think you can probably at times tell it's a bit of a set, I think that's okay because it works within the parameters that we needed it to. We wanted it to feel sort of prison-like. We wanted it to be in a basement, to have high windows so that it felt like there was little escape. I mean, there was nothing, too obvious about that, but I think that's how it makes you feel. I think you know, and then Donnie, when he's trying to run away down the corridor, we actually elongated the corridor for that shot, so it felt like he was running and running and running and couldn't reach the door. So it had to be built. It had to be built. It was
also have this sort of warm tones, a bit of, Darren, he sees himself as quite loose and a bit of sort of a, lothario. So it's kind of harking back to a kind of a gigolo type thing, but it's also really oppressive because the tones are all so close together, tiny bits of green here and there, that you just feel like you're kind of, weighed down by it.
And I think to the uninitiated, it looks quite neat and ordered. And then once you get into the sort of drug-fueled scenario, all the kind of the normality of it becomes, as Hannah says, just really oppressive and sticky and uncomfortable.
Well, and I think that the set serves the character and the story really, really well. It's all just a little too controlled, a little off-putting, And you mentioned tone, Hannah. At some point before the end of the show, I thought, goodness, this show is using a lot of warm tones, and it's coming off to me at times very red. Was that intentional?
Oh, completely, wasn't it, Debbie? It's we all know very well what red is, danger and alarm, but it's so it's a kind of that contradiction of like you feel like you're sort of not cold, but then it's also it's all on the edge of being spiraling down into depression, spiraling down into something, and it's just a dangerous color. And you use it sparingly, because then that works and it doesn't flatten out across the whole screen. When we use it in various places like various comedy clubs, it worked really well in there as well.
Yeah, I think it was sort of it was the color that surrounded him. I think he was never too far away from red, whether it be the danger of his situation or the exposure of his comedy nights, going terribly wrong, or whatever it is. There was always, and interestingly, the sort of red and green elements. So we bring in sort of green a little bit in there to kind of like accent it, I suppose, but also sometimes to make him feel a bit safer. So when he's in the comedy club or when he's in Lizzie's house, he's got a sort of minty green carpet. He's got, I think the first time he ever sees Terry, she's in a green top. It's just, it gives him a bit more hope. When I first had my interview with Richard, having done the stage show, he was very keen on the colors red and green. And in my mood boards, there was a lot of red and green. And then when Veronica came on, I guess we slightly diluted the green and made it a much sort of more sort of desaturated green for the most part, and the red became and sort of variants of red, orange and pinks and things like that became the tone rather than very specific two colors.
It was gradual stages, because like Lizzie's is sort of pale pinks and pale greens. So you still got the red and green, but it's a kind of, it's much safer, it's much muted, much sort of, wishy-washy. It's kind of a bit of a haven, but also a jail for him, Lizzie's house. And when I came on board, that was very much what Debbie wanted, and I thought it looked great. I thought that was perfect.
Now that just looking at some of the clips again, after this dawned on me at the end of the show, specifically because of that comment about red. Then I saw that there were punches from the costume designer as well, all the time in red. And now that you mentioned it, the greens also are very prominent throughout the show. So Hanna, tell me a little bit about the furniture in Darion's. Did you go specifically for a bit of a throwback and kind of like?
Yeah, absolutely. It was like I said before, that sort of looseness,
Right.
and sort of, look, you can almost imagine if it was a kind of more of a comedy, you'd have like a little sort of display of buttons and like lights would come on, like lights would go down and music. It's a very much a sort of bachelor's. This is shag pad, velours and velvets, and it's quite plush. And that was the kind of, that was the thought, and for it to be a bit of a throwback, so you can actually have all those tones all around the same. So you've got sort of the orange. They're not. I mean, some of them. The table would be like a mid-century repro, really, and the three the L-shaped sofa as well, are kind of a bit of a throwback. But it's all got that sort of, textured, lovely textures, darling, kind of feel to it. And I think that's what we wanted to. That was a conscious thought.
The sofa is a touch of genius, that sofa. It's just perfect.
Because because what happens there is just, if you feel, it's like,
Yeah.
But it just sits in there so perfectly, I thought.
And was that a hire, or was that and did you do the
hire?
Yeah,
it was a hire.
Yeah.
A great deal of stuff like that is a hire, because because you can find it, and you know where it all is, and it's we can build something quickly together that way.
Yeah, and there's always, with us, there's always this thing about, finally a project has come along that I can use this. and you get
things out there where I go, thank you at last.
Yeah. And how many places did you use for the comedy clubs?
4. For the Bethnal Green one, which is the one where Terry comes to see him, the hallway that he meets her in is different to the actual comedy club.
Sure.
So there was a lot of trawling around various working men's clubs and
yeah.
The drapery, was that all put in for the shoot?
Yes, it was. Yeah.
And God, my heart just breaks for him up there. He's so resilient, and yet and he's getting nowhere, and the jokes are really horrible.
I know, it's awful.
Bad. But then that you have to sort of wonder why he didn't make them better.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it may have been his sense of humor, I don't know. But gosh, sometimes we just keep tilting at windmills, you know?
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's again, as Hannah said earlier, it's part of the unraveling, isn't it? It's sort of not being able to see the wood for the trees anymore.
This was the first iteration of this was as a play, and then, well, first of all, it was live, and then it became a play, and then it became a series. Were you given any direction about which way to go because of that?
No, I think as I mentioned, the red and green had sort of, that was in Richard's mind, but I don't think it was enforced at all in terms of, you know, it didn't inform from him. It is unnecessarily, it came from the script. And I think that's how everybody responded to it.
There's such different art forms, theatre, film, and I think, you know, theatre to television, film, whatever, that you could, it would be odd, I think, to try and keep something from the theatre play, because it's such a different thing. And it was, you know, and also for Richard, it's such a kind of much more of a cathartic experience, because it's linear, whereas I suppose when you're making the film, obviously it's
Yes. I think that's really true.
Did you have a favorite set?
The pub was amazing to do. I loved the process. Absolutely loved the process of it. To be honest, the first block, the setting up, the kind of I think once he gets into his going to live with his mates, and you know, and I know that everything really unravels for him in his actual life as opposed to the history of his life, but it's less, I found that less interesting than the setting of it, setting up.
You know, I think I'd say that I'd love doing the pub and I would do Darian's, but actually doing Martha's and watching the producers come in and go, "Oh, holy crap." Or they didn't see me, we were hiding, and you just heard them go, "Christ, you know, this is." That was felt really sort of like you were on the money kind of thing, that you'd made it right for everybody.
Right.
But they're also like sort of compositionally, I really like the Peckham Working Man's Club, which is the one when he's kind of behind with the gold slash curtains and lame curtains looking out. But then, you know, whenever you do anything, you're always a little bit critical as well, aren't you? Like, oh, you know, why did I?
If only we'd done this. Yeah.
Yeah, like, oh.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to tell you what that is. So.
Oh, come on. This is the time. Well, okay. One of my other questions is always, what was your least favorite set? And would you like to have the chance of doing anything over?
The pub.
The pub.
Best done least. Yeah, no, I look at the pub now because I think for me, the collaboration with the DP was really, really, really brilliant. I found it a really amazing experience because he just made them all come to life. And so when it was graded slightly brighter than the LUT that he had on the dailies. And so I look at that yellow and I can't bear it.
No, I think it works really well. When
we camera tested it, it was it was much darker. So it was, but they've kind of turned it all up, which is, you know, it does work, but it's the sort of thing that if we could go back, I'd make that darker.
Do you know what? I think it's just bits of things where you wish you could have done them better. And you look at it, oh, Christ.
Yeah. Like, rather than the whole thing. Yeah.
And the house where Donnie is living, his ex-girlfriend's mother's house. I mean, obviously, and also what a great cast there. Sophie's always incredible. Was that was a real location?
Yeah, we were painting, we were repainting, we were wallpapering, you know, sceneries going in and new, you know, light practical sparks coming in, and it was, you know, it was big. It was quite a big thing because people are living there, and once we were filming, they weren't living there, but you know, amongst us wallpapering, they're still staying the night. It was a very odd place, wasn't it? Odd setup.
Yeah, it was huge, absolutely enormous. And this old couple lived there who I think rented out a couple of rooms to students, but they'd obviously lived there for about 45 years or something. And there was just so much stuff in there, wasn't there? It was such a sort of major task, kind of boxing it all up and getting it all out. And it had such a great footprint, you know, you're kind of like going in and out of rooms and, you know, kind of coming back on yourself. And it was just great to film it.
And in Donnie's bedroom of her house, where did the sink come from? Was it there?
Sink was there, yeah. Yeah.
Is it pretty typical to have that sort of in a
No.
rental?
No, I know, yeah. But you know, a gift in some ways.
Yeah, they'd had lodgers forever, so it was the kind of thing. That's not a normal thing, but if you're kind of, you know, it's like a bed sit.
Yeah.
almost.
Yeah. I just have never seen one sort of like that on that wall. And again, you know, almost if you made the decision to do it, it would look sort of out of place, but because you knew it was real.
Yeah.
Yeah, to live with it, we couldn't take it away, and it would have looked. It was kind of enjoyable to have to live with it, because if we had to
definitely.
something, it would have been like, what is that?
Yeah.
So it kind of adds to the sort of peculiarity of the whole thing.
Again, and it just happened to be green. That happened to work in your palette.
Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. I think we'd have had to spray it if it wasn't.
Yeah, I think, yes, exactly. I think if it hadn't have been green, we might have done something about it. But the fact that it was standing there in that green, we were like, well, it's like serendipity, isn't it? It has to.
Exactly. And such a great shape as well, that real sort of 30s shape.
Yeah, really, totally, always leaking taps.
And Hanna, just because it almost never happens for me, and almost all of my friends who are set decorators agree, there's hardly ever any place that you walk in and shoot as is. Did that happen anywhere here on this show?
No. I can't think of anywhere.
Yeah,
you always have to do something, otherwise, what's the point? You know, we've got to make it look right.
So, and tell me about the police station, because I thought it was quite terrific.
To be honest, that was just it just came out of visiting a location that we were using anyway, and needed it to be sort of multi-purpose. And just going into this open space and thinking, okay, well, we can build something here, and just sort of going away and sketching it, really.
Well, I liked the window. I thought it played very well. I thought it was shot really beautifully. What sort of crew did you have, Hanna?
I had 2 people. As in the set deck department, there was me and there was Natalie Kura, who was the buyer. But I kind of, in that kind of small environment, I'd use as kind of buyer. I'd do the budget, and she would do. She's also the assistant set deck as well. And we had Lily Huang, who was our petty cash buyer. Plus, obviously, we have prop master and all the dressing guys.
Right.
But yeah, there wasn't a great deal of us. There wasn't that many.
And did you shoot in around London, or were you in another part of the country?
Mostly London.
London.
Yeah.
And what about the Fringe Festival? Is that actually shot in London as well?
Oh no, yes, but that was shot at the Fringe in Edinburgh.
I think in terms of, you know, responding to a script and feeling very connected to the material, I think Baby Reindeer was pretty well, as has proven. It was quite a special piece of work, I think.
Yeah, I mean, it's just so many people have come up to me and talked about it. Just talking about it before they even knew I worked on it. You know, just talking about how it looked and how it made them feel, etc., etc. So it's it just feels good to have that sort of people really, really, I would say love it. I don't mean that because it's kind of a weird thing to love. Yeah, really, yeah, exactly. Respond to it well. Just feels good. I'm working at the moment. Like everybody on the crew is talking about it. Everybody.
I think the sort of the globalness of it has been the surprise. I think, you know, it's quite British in lots of ways. And I think, you know, to have such a resonance around the world, I think is just sort of testament to how important a story it is to tell, and how many people needed to hear it or see it.
And how well it's been done. It could easily just become voyeuristic, which I don't think it is, you know, and I think it's, you know, the fact that people are watching it in their droves, I think, is a testament to the writing and also the acting. Yeah.
Is there anything that I haven't picked up on that you would like to talk about on the show that that's not been highlighted, or in various other interviews in the past? Is there anything that you wish you had said that didn't get said?
I mean, I think for me, it would just be to highlight the collaboration, the sort of creative collaboration with the director, the DP, and the whole of the art department, who were, you know,
Yes.
incredibly on board. And even, you know, I remember the charge hand coming up to me on the day he started saying how much he loved the script, which just kind of never happens, you know. So I just think everybody had their heart in it.
Yeah.
And I think it shows.
Yeah, a passion. It was a passion project,
Mm.
which is not to denigrate it, but it is because, you know, you want to make sure that you do absolutely the best that you can.
I totally agree with that, and it is great to do a passion project, and it's also good to do something worthwhile, you know.
Yeah, I think so.
And to have a moral, which is great.
Yeah.
Okay, well, listen, I want to thank you for joining me, and it's been delightful to talk about the show, but more delightful to meet the two of you. And
Oh, thank you so much.
congratulations on the big success.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Thanks for joining us for this episode of Inside the Set with Set Decor. Don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and visit our website, setdecor.com.